So, a very, very good evening, good morning, good afternoon to every one of you. As we celebrate today the Happiness Day or the Day of Happiness, we are joined with with very talented professionals and, of course, experienced people who can take us along to discuss a very important topic, a topic which we say is "Ye dil da matlab hai." That means it is just about the heart. We feel with the heart, we speak with the heart, unknowingly, knowingly, and let us understand the qualities of the heart today. The heart is the body's engine room, as it is called, responsible for pumping life sustaining blood via 60,000-mile long network of vessels. Imagine. And it works ceaselessly, day on, day, night. And therefore, we really give importance to this organ, which is the heart. So, I'm joined on the show by my dear friends and colleagues to introduce to all of you Dr. Haresh Mehta. He's an interventional cardiologist from Mumbai, currently affiliated with prominent hospitals across Mumbai like Lilavati Hospital, Research Center, Hinduja Healthcare Surgical and SL Raheja Hospital. Having completed his fellowship at University Hospital Bern, Switzerland, he is also a visiting faculty in its Department of Cardiology. Actively involved in various medical bodies, frequently gives lectures and provides demonstrations of complex angioplasty techniques. He is also the founder of the Institute of Healing Hearts. Most importantly, he's a heartfulness practitioner and trainer. Welcome, Dr. Haresh Mehta. I also
Hi.
welcome Dr. Rahul Mehrotra, who is a cardiologist and director and head of non-invasive cardiology at Max Super Speciality Hospital, Saket, New Delhi. He holds a MD degree in medicine and DNB in cardiology. He has published more than 100 articles in national and international journals and chapters in textbooks. Very keenly interested in exploring the scientific basis of spirituality, and he has been practicing heartfulness meditation for more than 2 decades, and he is also a trainer. He is regularly invited to international and national forums as an expert on science and spirituality. Welcome, Dr. Rahul. Very interesting personality, Mr. Sanjeev Thomas calls himself a dreamer, an artist, a third culture kid, music and video producer, singer, guitarist, music composer for film and TV, music entrepreneur, and educator. He's a founder at Rainbow Bridge and founder at Class of Vibe, lead guitarist for Sid Sriram. He was also a lead guitarist for A.R. Rahman from 2005 to 2014. Apart from his work in the movie industry, he has officially released 4 albums. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Sanjeev.
Thank you.
And definitely, our heart requires exercise. Every muscle requires exercise, and our heart also requires exercise. So, we have with us Dr. Swanand Kulkarni, a full time consultant in cardiac rehabilitation with Dr. L.H. Hiranandani Hospital, Powai. Well experienced in handling patients who have a lot of heart issues like post valve replacement, bypass surgery, CABG, and to mention a lot of them, he has done. He has considerable experience in preventive and rehabilitative cardiology. He is also involved in training cardiac patients for the Standard Charter Marathon in 2011 to 13. He has also given a lot of oral presentations at state and national conferences and involved in conducting health talks to create more awareness about heart disease and its risk factors in all the levels of society. So, thank you for joining us, Dr. Swanand, and a very warm
Thank you.
welcome to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, as we start our show, my first question is to Dr. Rahul Mehrotra to introduce us to the topic of the day, the heart. Over to you, Dr. Rahul Mehrotra. Can you please take this question? What is the heart? How can you really explain this to us?
Yes, it's a organ par excellence, as I like to call it. It's a mystical organ throughout history, mythology, and even if you look at the biological aspect of heart, it is the first organ that forms in the body before much before anything else has formed, and it is the last organ to stop working, because we define death when the heart stops. We don't define death when any other organ stops. Works relentlessly day in and day out, pumping blood to all the organs, all parts of the body, demanding very little in return. So this is the key organ, I should say, in our body, and we should all look after it.
When you say that, why, when it's a key organ, I'm sure that there must be lot of problems which this organ also faces. And what are the different kinds of heart disease and the symptoms associated with it?
So that's an interesting question. Like other parts of the body, heart has its own set of problems or diseases, starting right from congenital heart diseases, where we can be born with a defective heart. You've often heard about people being born with holes in their hearts or mismatched connections in the heart, leading to blue babies and other anomalies of the heart. Apart from the congenital defects which we are born with, we can also have a lot of acquired diseases, right from infections, injuries involving different parts of the heart, getting involved in tumors, although it is quite resistant, but tumors do happen also in the heart. It also gets involved sometimes with the other tumors which spread to the heart. And the most common heart disease that we often talk about is in the blockage of the coronary arteries, or the arteries which supply blood to the heart. As we've been mentioning, it is a pump which relentlessly works. It's like a muscular pump which keeps working. So it requires an uninterrupted supply of blood and nutrition. So the arteries supplying muscles, the heart muscles, when they got clogged, that is where the commonest kind of heart disease which we know arises, which we call coronary artery disease, or CAD, which can manifest in the form of simple anginal pain, or a life threatening heart attack, or sudden cardiac death, the worst part. So these are the different spectrums of diseases which the heart can go through.
Thank you, Dr. Rahul. And we all know that these 2 years have been very, very significantly one of stress, two of stress, and a lot of stress and tension, which was because of not seeing our dear ones, not able to have a social connect with people. And people have said there are two views to this, and Dr. Haresh, this is to you, that do you really feel that the number of or the incidence of heart attacks have increased or decreased? What is your viewpoint on that, and why is it so?
Right. So when the pandemic began, there are a lot of papers that started coming out that the number of heart diseases have reduced actually, and people started believing कि has COVID reduced the incidence of heart diseases? But then they gradually found out that people seeking help for heart diseases had gone down of fear of COVID. So that was a minor anomaly that had occurred due to the fear of COVID, and that people did not venture into hospital despite having incidence of heart diseases. So, in effect, the incidence actually went up marginally. And the reason I say went up marginally, because one, people were not seeking attention, so the more people were getting afflicted by this problem, and their physical activity had gone down. And second, COVID itself was affecting the heart and causing lots of heart problems, which gradually came out into the open when more and more people got admitted with COVID. So I say that the heart incidence definitely went up rather than went down.
So, Dr. Haresh, on our groups, many of our medical groups, we have seen our own beings, our own friends having problems and having collapsed either in the gym or in the hospitals. So, do you think that certain types of people are prone to develop this problem? Certain profession, is it genetically determined that okay, if my father has got MI, when I'm going to get MI? What is
Right.
it?
So that's a very interesting question, Snehal. So heart disease, as Rahul spoke about, which we're talking about. When we say heart disease, now we're talking of ischemic heart disease. These are heart diseases caused by blockages of blood vessels. Now, this is a multifactorial reason for this heart diseases. So there's something we call modifiable factors and one are non-modifiable factors. So the non-modifiable factors are family history. So if you have a first degree relative who's young and has got heart disease, or significant heart death, or familial hypercholesterolemia, so these are people who are going to generally develop a heart disease. So in such people, you can only turn the clock behind and start catching them early so that you delay their presentation, or maybe not let them present with a heart disease. So these are generally the non-modifiable ones. Well, the modifiable ones are many, which are in our control, like blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, keeping a good weight, a healthy lifestyle, sleeping well, and multiple others which can be modified. So this is how we divide the modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors.
Thank you, Dr. Haresh. And to you, Dr. Swanand, I'm sure you have been involved into a lot of rehabilitation in the hospital. And what is your viewpoint about the lifestyle in general? And what would you advise people as form of exercises pre or post? What do you want to take first? Do you want to take lifestyle modification first?
Well, actually, everything goes hand in hand. Important point we just had mentioned first is was the COVID. Obviously, the first and foremost most important part, which we have been facing, is the stress, the mental stress, and not being able to get out of the house. So there is an excuse of not doing the exercises, or maybe because of the stress, an individual is not gaining the opportunity to do the exercises or any kind of motivation to do the exercises. As Dr. Haresh just mentioned very well, modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. Most of the modifiable risk factors like blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, any of the addictions, poor diet control, mental or physical stress, overweight, and a life like a lack of physical activity. Everything is modifiable. The lifestyle, it all includes all these 8 points. And importantly, surprisingly, actually, majority of these stress factors can definitely be resolved with just moderate or prescribed good amount of physical activities. So when we are talking about in general as a lifestyle modification, definitely we have to consider all the 8 risk factors which are modifiable, which are in our control, which can be modifiable and definitely can improve our day-to-day life, quality of life, and definitely can give us good longevity and reduce the mortality and morbidity benefits as well. So the point is, at the end of the day, we all need to sit down, take a piece of paper, write down the issues, and start resolving it one by one. If there are issues like blood pressure, diabetes, or any other, talk to the doctor. Like, specifically just go to the physician, go to the cardiologist. They're there to help you. So definitely you can be approaching them immediately if required. Definitely medicine is going to be get prescribed, and definitely that gives us a clear cut outway precisely to be a better person than yesterday.
Thank you, Dr. Swanand. And what I hear from you is that all the aspects of wellness are extremely important. And as I hear from Dr. Haresh, that because we don't really pay attention to even maybe one of the aspects, or we overdo some things like overeating or eating at not at very right timings, we land up with problems. So to lead a healthy and a happy lifestyle is extremely important. And I think in Heartfulness, we have a variety of practices which we'll discuss on the way as we go ahead. So, talking to you next, Mr. Sanjeev, what was your experience and what did you go through? Would you like to share it with us? What were the symptoms you
Yeah.
experienced? What did you feel that time?
So, hi. I think it was around October is when I started having a slight pinching pain across my left hand, which was kind of radiating through my left hand. And I mean, my first instinct was to check my blood, and I checked my blood, and what I saw was, nothing extravagant. I mean, I didn't see my cholesterol levels to, way up the normal mark. It seemed kind of okay. And my way of dealing with it was, I mean, obviously I forgot to take an ECG and echo, which I should have done at that point. But then instead, I started exercising. I started walking. I started doing my stretches, and once I started doing that, I kind of the pain also kind of subsided to a certain extent. But then in December, one morning, I woke up. At about 6 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly felt a kind of a breathlessness, not a pain as such, but then I felt like I couldn't breathe well, and that's when I called up my wife and I said, I have this, I don't know what it is, and then we decided to go to the hospital nearby, and that's when they checked my ECG and told me that I'm having a massive heart attack. And obviously there was no cardiac department there. I was then rushed to a hospital called the Baptist Hospital, and that's when they ran an angiogram on me and saw that one of my main arteries had 100% block, and they suggested me to for me to go ahead with an angioplasty. So that's what happened in December, and it's been 4 months since then.
That is pretty close. Very, very pretty
Yeah,
close. So,
yeah.
did you modify your lifestyle post that, and how did you really recuperate from this?
I used to be quite a heavy smoker, so I've kind of stopped smoking now. And uh, lifestyle, yes, I mean, in terms of exercise, that's been a regular thing in my life now. I do my Surya Namaskar in the morning, a little bit of meditation. I do my evening walks, and in terms of my diet, I don't order from outside anymore. Almost pretty much try to eat at home. So, and I feel good now. So so I think it's going to do well for me.
So that's nice to hear from you. And I would now like to ask Dr. Rahul. He mentioned a word meditation and heart health. Do you feel that meditation really contributes, and in what way does it contribute to heart health?
Yes, I do agree. As we've been discussing about modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors, a very powerful and very much ignored modifiable risk factor causing heart attack is stress. Psychosocial stress is as powerful a risk factor as, for example, diabetes or cigarette smoking. And it is very much not talked about or not thought about. So, as a stress management strategy, as individuals, if we want to cope up with the stresses and strains of life, like COVID-like situation when it comes up, best way to deal it with is we have meditation as part of our daily routine. We are more equipped to dealing with the stresses and strains of life. We are less given to stress, and as a risk modifier, yes, it helps in bringing down stress levels. Besides, there are studies which clearly show that meditation is recommended now. Meditation helps keeps our blood pressure down, perhaps through the stress route, perhaps through indirect methods. It keeps our heart rate low, which means that if a person's heart is beating 80 or 90 times a minute, a regular meditator's heart may be beating, say, 60 or 70 times a minute. So the heart is getting more rest. And all these factors put together determine overall it should be helpful in maintaining heart health. And that is why the international organizations like the American Heart Association now recommend meditation as a preventive strategy. Apart from diet, exercise, whatever else we do, meditation is to be included as a preventive measure for lowering the risk of heart attack.
So, as I hear from you, Dr. Rahul, it works very well on the heart rate and our heart beats, and that's how we can claim we are alive. So, Dr. Haresh, all of us know that women are emotionally very triggered, and we feel bad very fast. We feel happy very fast. We Our hormonal changes are reflected everywhere. We flushed. We tend to blush. So, do you think that, in spite of all this, it is said that heart disease is a men's condition? Do you agree with this? I've been seeing your post on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and
So you've been reading about
about
that. Okay. Break the bias.
break the bias.
Yeah. So actually, women actually, we used to think that women are neglected only in the third world. But if you see data and statistics all over the world, women have been neglected all over the universe in all the centuries. And the heart disease incidence actually is equal or slightly more in women than men, and which has been hidden or brushed under the carpet for a long time. And women who have heart disease present much later than men, and that's why they do worse than men when they once they get admitted, and they are more ill, and they are more difficult to handle, and they die more often. So that's one of the major reasons that we need to change that. Women suffer less heart disease than men. Yes, women do suffer little less heart disease than men, but that is only in the pre-menopausal age. So I'm talking of when you're in your 20s and 30s. But once you come closer to your menopausal age, your chance of having a heart attack is as much as a man is. And I think that women need to be as proactive, and the men in the community have to be as proactive to protect their women from heart diseases and get them regularly checked and apply the same preventive aspects to the women as they apply to the men.
Thank you, Dr. Haresh. I come to you, Dr. Rahul. We are all speaking of lifestyle modifications and how to develop exercise or put exercise as a part of our lifestyle. Can you tell me why, in spite of knowing all this, I think 80% of the population does not exercise? How can we be more consistent? Any three habits which you can suggest which can make ourselves more consistent with our lifestyle so that the percentage of heartbreaks is lesser?
Yes, so I like to take it as integrating uh, spirituality and Ashtanga yoga into these preventive aspects. So let's talk about yamas and niyamas. Yamas are the thing we need to do, and yamas are the thing we need to get rid of, and niyamas are the thing we need to follow. The good habits that we want to inculcate. But equally important is to get rid of the bad habits which are counterproductive to the heart health. So the best part we can do is start with meditation practice for once, because as you go on meditating, you kind of set into a schedule. Your mind becomes regulated, and then you are less prone to the pushes and pulls of the desires. Like, I want to go for a walk, but let's postpone it for now. Let's watch my favorite television serial or watch something on the mobile. As you go on meditating, gradually you become more and more disciplined. It comes. You just have to practice and see. Besides, the most important niyama I want to inculcate is awareness. Awareness about heart disease, as Dr. Haresh has been talking about. There are a lot of misconceptions related to heart disease. For example, generally we believe that it is a disease of the Western countries. It is a disease of the elderly. It is a disease of men primarily. And I'll get a heart attack when perhaps I'm 60 in my 60s. Or if I'm not smoking, I'm not likely to get heart attack. So, as Brother Sanjeev mentioned very nicely, that he had only slight elevation of cholesterol. So, these risk factors add together. Slight elevation of cholesterol, slightly bigger bellies than we should have, only limited physical exercise, small amount of incorrect diet, all these add up and then give rise to a multitude of risk factors which we already have. So awareness is very important. We need to be aware that as Indians and as Southeast Asians, we are more prone to heart attacks and heart disease than any race in the world. We're already in the risk category, the highest risk category in the world. Number two, it's not the disease of 50s and 60s. In Southeast Asians, we are getting heart attacks a decade earlier. As the Sanjeev pointed out, we hardly think about heart disease when we are into our 30s and 40s. But that is the time we already have to start working on our disciplined lifestyle. So awareness is very important. The other thing is about interventions. Walking, oh, it is something for the old people to do who have nothing else to do. It's so boring walking on the streets doing nothing. I'd better go to a gym and do a workout, which is for my muscles. So there are clear studies, and all these interventions, be it walking, brisk walking, how much to walk, what is the walking prescription that we give to our patients. And it has been clearly scientifically proven that you may not burn calories, you may not lose weight, but walking helps prevent heart attacks. So it's a clearly scientifically researched and proven intervention. It brings down blood pressure, it brings down blood sugar, it brings down cholesterol. Similarly for diet. So these are all well researched things. So let us give up on the myths and start accepting, start reading, and start following and being aware of what is all around us. Heart disease is all around us. It's not that I'll not get it because I don't have a family history or I'm not smoking. I may still be stressed. I may still be having slightly elevated cholesterols. I'm hardly exercising. I'm sitting 8 hours a day on my desk. So all these risk factors add up, and all of us are at risk. So all of us need to take these preventive measures. So that is one. And one thing I'd like to include in yamas is to get rid of is follow your doctor's advice. Don't go to Google. Don't go to WhatsApp. Don't go to social media for unprofessional and incorrect advice. Don't use your smart watches for taking an ECG. And if the ECG on your smartwatch is reporting is a normal, you think that you don't have a heart attack or nothing is wrong with you. So these are some of the bad habits we need to get rid of, and some of the good habits we need to incorporate in our lifestyle.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rahul. Coming to you, Mr. Sanjeev, how has this episode changed your life, your professional relationships, your personal relationships?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, my life has become clean right now. So, I mean, of course, I have a lot of friends who hang out at pubs and who party a lot, and so I kind of right now avoid those things, which is you can hear me?
No, not, it is breaking a bit. If you can just adjust the volume.
Yeah. Hello, is it okay
Yeah,
now?
better. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I do avoid, going out and partying, even though, I mean, I can abstain from the drinking and the smoking, but still, I think it's better for me if I don't put myself in those places and, see the temptation happening like from my. I'm kind of, especially since it's a few months ago, I'm kind of staying away from those kind of things. But then. Um, I think it's all about how you take your downfalls in life. I think so, and I think as a musician, we go through a lot of hardships, ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster kind of career when you're a musician. So you kind of get strong in a way to kind of cope up with these things. So when it happened to me, and even today, I take it easy. I don't think about it too much. I don't worry that I might have another episode or and I make sure my family and the people around me don't feel bad or don't feel stressed because of my condition. So I take it as easy as I can, and that's how I am generally. So yeah, I think that plays an important part too on how your mind takes this whole mishap when something like this happens to you. I mean, I never thought that I would get a heart attack when I'm 40, and I got it. And but then I'm happy now that I'm living healthy, and I definitely feel good about it.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience. And it's the mind which plays real tricks with all of us. So, Dr. Haresh, my next question is to you. We see many times there are two factions of society, or we see some people who are very, very fearful. Any gastric pain, anything jal raha, and they rush and say, "I want to do my ECG." And there is another section who does not believe in doing everything. So can you point out, or can you give us some pointers when we really need to rush to you
Okay.
and when we can say it is safe? I can stay at
Right.
home, take an antacid and sit back and relax.
I wish the answer was so easy. But the unfortunate part is that the gastrointestinal system and the cardiovascular system really overlap each other. So many a times heart patients do complain of just gas, heartburn, and when they burp, they feel better. And they attribute it
Yes.
this commonly to gas, and they unfortunately some of them lose their life too. And the other extreme is that you have proper squeezing chest of chest pain on the chest. There's a heaviness, is radiating down your hand, it's going to your tooth, and yet you ignore it, knowing that this is heart disease. So these are two unfortunate spectrums. What I would say that if you get these symptoms, which you think is acidity, I would still err on the side of safety and at least go and consult a physician, get your ECG done. Let him decide whether this is needs further interrogation or just can be left alone. I would not recommend a common man to just take an antacid and sit and wait, see whether he responds or not, because that waiting period is the golden hour which the doctor needs to save your life. So when you're getting it for the first time, you've not had anything like this before, just go and see a doctor. Once he clarifies with few tests that what you're having is experiencing is acidity and you need to take these precautions, then I would listen to a doctor. And as Dr. Rahul said, do not self-medicate, because that's the most dangerous. It's better to self-meditate than self-medicate.
So prescription is meditation, not medication, or meditation and medication, right?
Yeah, sure. That's the right way. Medication and meditation. So, I mean, do not take things like it's like I can't become Sanjeev and start playing the guitar beautifully on day one. So, you have to know what our limitations are.
So talking of practice, Swanand, that question comes to you. What do you mean by cardiac rehabilitation? How much should we practice exercise? Should we go on doing it day in and day out, or maybe after some days say it's done, I'm off? Can I do away with exercises?
Okay. Uh, Answer is a little complex, but it is going to be very simple. First thing first is basically human body is meant to move. We have to move. We are animals. We are humans. First thing. Second, muscle do demand the nutrition, muscle do demand the oxygen to have a peak performances. And definitely, as Dr. Haresh just said, like, you cannot start playing guitar like Sanjeev does, like on the day one. Rome was not built overnight. So does our muscles. Basically, we need some time to develop the muscle. We need some time to be habituated with the exercise. And the thing is, the beauty of the heart is, or the complexity of the situation is, we have to complexify furthermore. We have to improvise. We have to graduate more and more and more and more. There is no end to it, but doing exercises precisely, doing exercises which are prescribed to you, which are safe for you, is more important rather than being randomization. When I mean safe, when I mean stable, when I mean there is no randomization, that does mean specifically there are five perspectives of the exercises. First is the frequency of your exercise. Second is the intensity at which you will be doing the exercise. This third is the time for which you will be doing the exercises. Fourth is the different types of the exercises. And last and foremost is the heart rate during your exercise. Now, this thing has to be first evaluated. An individual who would come to us specifically needs to be evaluated on a medical ground, on a physiological ground, cardiological perspective. Everything has to be evaluated first, and then the exercise prescription is given to an individual. Exercise prescription is exactly the same as medicine prescription. You do not take medicine extra, you do not do exercise extra. You will be prescribed to do X amount of exercise, which is safe for you. That is keeping your cardiovascular, coronary artery, as well as your musculoskeletal system safe, so that you prevent any kind of an injury. Or unfortunately, if someone already had kind of a cardiac issue, someone who have undergone bypass surgery or valve replacement, or like Mr. Sanjeev who had undergone PAMI or so, like there is emergency angioplasty. So in this perspective, an individual would be coming to us He would be doing an exercise, first the assessment, consultation, and would be starting the exercises, which will be under the evaluation, which will be under complete supervision, which also includes my different team members as well. So I'm not the only one. With me, definitely, cardiologist is the first point of contact all the time. Second is me, where an individual would be performing the exercises. I also have the team member as my nursing staff, my dietitian, my yoga instructor, who would be guiding you for a safer lifestyle, who would be giving you a better prospectus to be a healthier person than you were before the cardiac event. And importantly, over to all to cover this all is about the awareness what an individual has to have, which an individual also needs to spread amongst the friends and the family. And last and most important thing is the prevention of any of the future events, or an individual who probably knows that there is some issue is there in the artery, definitely can be prevented with just a medication and exercises. Definitely there has to be a consistency. And to sum up this all, the rehabilitation is designed to improve your physical, physiological, and mental health. It is specifically, it's a team effort, it's a holistic approach, and it requires everyone on the path.
Thank you, Dr. Swanand. This was really a complete prescription as we look at it. Mr. Sanjeev, you may have undergone also cardiac rehab post your event. Can you comment about your experience? Did you follow it? And what did you follow the most?
I don't think I was given. Doctor Sona,
Swanand, Swanand.
Swanand. Sorry. So, like Doctor Swanand said, you explain a range of things, which I definitely didn't get. My doctor was, I think, pretty straightforward, saying that you can do whatever you want as long as you uh, you know are used to it, as long as you're not introducing something new. Like, for example, the first thing I asked him was, I have a concert to go to, I have an international concert to go to, can I go for the concert? And he was like, yeah, you can go. And I mean a concert, I carry a heavy guitar and play and jump around for say 2.5 hours at a stretch. So that's quite a heavy thing to do, especially after I've had a heart attack and stuff. But then he was totally fine. He said, if you've been doing this for all these years, and I think it's something that I can definitely go on about. And I think there was a session on for people like us to attend in terms of like the post-operative exercises and stuff like that. But I didn't go for it because my doctor was pretty simple. I asked him whether I could walk, I could do my usual stuff, and then he was there. Yeah, just do your usual thing, man. So yeah, I didn't get any specific advice on what I was supposed to do, but I think I'm doing what I feel I should be doing.
So it's like the fact and the reality, na?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
happens. The exercise prescriptions are usually not taken or not given or not taken seriously. But having a expert like a cardiac rehab specialist is very important. Coming back to Dr. Haresh, I would like to know that once you get a heart attack, are you deemed to be chronically called as a patient or you can flourish again?
So if you look at Sanjeev, then you would say you can flourish again, right? So
Yes.
yeah, all this boils down to the amount of damage your heart has suffered and what your doctor prescribed. So what effectively happens that you can lead a normal lifestyle back again based on the therapy advised by the doctor, by the nutritionist, etc. But you need to be aware at the same time that there are some medications which the doctors prescribed cannot be stopped. So that's one most important thing that I always tell my patients post discharge. That is what I call surveillance. The surveillance is the one that is going to prevent a future attack. See, problem is not the first attack. You've had it, you've cured it, you've treated it. Every one problem brings another if you do not take care of it. So first attack follows another one if you do not take care of it. So post care is most important. So listen to your doctor on drugs, very, very important. Do not stop any drugs unless the doctor says so. And unless your doctor says so, your cardiologist says so. That's one important thing. And the most second important thing is that now is the time where before discharge, this is where I think most hospitals, most doctors lack, is the time to tell the patient what his life should be and the path he should follow. Because that is what is going to decide his longevity, his disease free interval. And that is the time to instill habits about exercise, about his sleep pattern, his work pattern, his mental health, which is the most ignored that Dr. Rahul was talking about. The mental health, the spiritual health, all this has to be done before he leaves the hospital. So he understands that what is going to prevent him from getting another one. We are only interested in lowering our drug regimen. So if you ask any patient, what's the question for your doctor? His only question is, सर दवा कब बंद होगी गोली कब कम होगी So I think that they need to, our hospitals have to gear up and give them a proper session and explain to them about everything and which will prevent him from coming back. And most
I think
important is de-addiction. De-addiction, because we really miss it because most of our young patients are the ones who are smokers. So we need to realize, make them realize that how bad it is to smoke, and if you smoke again, what can happen again. So that's the way I think we need to guide our patients.
that is phenomenal advice. And as you're talking, I was just thinking about this, that the lung and the heart, as you said about the gastrointestinal system. So also the heart and the lung go hand in hand. Like I have been having this problem of allergies and lung allergies very specifically. So I cannot, climb up very rapidly, or if I climb up, then I feel a little stressed out. So Dr. Rahul, what is it that we should look at when we talk of heart health? Is it, should we measure it in terms of heartbeats, respiratory rate, or what is it?
So heart can be said to be in good health when heart is able to function optimally under extremely demanding circumstances. And that is what we do when we do a preventive check before some high risk surgeries when the patients are sent to us. We are supposed to assess the risk of the patient developing a cardiac event during that stressful surgery or a long surgery. And that is where the role of stress tests come in. Like we make the heart beat faster, we make you walk either on a treadmill or we subject you to a combination of treadmill and echocardiography. We, it's a very systematically done test, or sometimes we have to use drugs to increase your heart rate. And as we monitor your response to the increasing heart rate, we image the heart also. And if the heart is able to come out optimally in their stress test, the risk of having a future event is quite less and generally predicted to be less than a percent in the next 2 years, given that your lifestyle remains same in the next 2 years. If your stress test is negative today or it's completely all right, your lipids are okay, your blood sugars are under control, your blood pressure is under control, you're not smoking right now. But if you lose your current healthy lifestyle, the predictive value of these stress tests is not 1 year or 2 year, as we like to say. An acute episode of stress, for example, a lot of sleepless nights, for example, an extreme episode of dietary indulgence, for example, can trigger an heart attack even though your heart was in good health during your last preventive health check. So it's a any of the acute stresses can act as a trigger and cause this life-threatening event. And one thing I'd like to add is the persons who've had a heart attack, and Brother Sanjeev, do not be alarmed, please, are more prone to get a second event than the people who are yet to have it. So it's very important to stick to our regimes. But those of us who've not had it will definitely be caught unawares. So we also cannot let our guards down. So it's a continuous effort that has to be put in. We can never say, like you like to put it, I'm done, I've had a good heart, now I can start enjoying my life and indulge in all sorts of unhealthy practices. It's never going to be like that. The risk continuously increasing because the most powerful risk factor is age, and we are continuously aging.
That's a sober statement. So, coming back to Mr. Sanjeev, would you like to comment, ask any questions?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, but then maybe I'll start with I have a feeling that the vaccination has something to do with my heart attack. I mean, I mean, if I'm not wrong, there are different kinds of blockages, right? I mean, there's a calcification or calcium block or a blood clot, and I obviously had a blood clot. So I'd like to know whether the vaccination has something to do with this, and whether I should take a booster at all, because I am thinking of not taking the booster. So that's my first question.
I think that's a very pertinent question. Who will take it, Dr. Rahul or Dr. Harish?
I think we'll let Rahul take it.
Oh,
Then I'll add on
I
if
think
necessary.
I should say googly, Sanjeev. It's a very pertinent question in the current times. The issues surrounding COVID pandemic and vaccine causing problems, including heart attacks. The answer is definitely not with any of us. It's a very, very short period for which we have been able to study the whole episode and come out with robust scientific evidence to give you a clear answer in terms of yes or no. But the best part is we are all in the same boat. We are all in the same situation in this particular pandemic across the globe. So, in the best interest, I think whatever we have is that it does not cause an overtly high incidence of heart attacks or adverse events, the vaccines I'm talking about. Nor does COVID has shown a very high incidence of heart attack. The overall increase, if there has been any attributable directly to the virus or the vaccine, is a very, very, very minuscule number. And that too a different kind of complication in terms of clotting happening on the right side of the heart, like pulmonary embolism and those kind of complications. So it's not so much of a risk, and we have to weigh the risk of a disease caused by vaccine versus the prevention offered by the vaccine. So I think it's more in favor of benefit for preventing this deadly pandemic that currently we are in the grip of. And a finite side effect is always there with anything, any drug, any vaccine, even air if it is polluted, even exercise if not done in the right way, even diet if not taken in the right measure. Everything has a finite side effect. But the risk benefit ratio, when it is overtly in favor of benefit, I think then that is the way to go, and generally that is the way to follow.
So do
Right.
you suggest that I take the booster or not take the booster?
That is my overview of the situation that I have brought to you. And if you ask me, I have just, because it is recommended by authorities, health authorities have looked at it, the benefits and the risk have been studied, and it is widely being recommended. So I think I'll definitely go ahead and do it, and there's no harm in getting it.
Right.
Preventing
Can I
ourselves.
just join in for a minute? Yeah.
Yeah, sure, brother.
Okay. So, Sanjeev, look at it like that. I was taught in school that when you see a pigeon and a golden goose, which is more common? What do you commonly see? A pigeon, right? So you clearly had smoking, which was your biggest risk factor. So that was your
Yeah.
main reason that you got it. Now, whether COVID vaccine triggered it or not, that is very difficult to say. But the incidence, as Dr. Rahul said, is going to be 2 a million or 2.5 in a million. That's hardly an incidence. And whenever I recommend a therapy, because I have, as I told you, I have patients coming to me telling me, ki, oh, this drug, how long do I have to take? Do I have to take it lifelong? So I give them a simple example that how many people have died of taking amlodipine for blood pressure? Almost none. They almost have swelling here, swelling there, but they don't die. But if you don't take a medicine, then you have stroke, you have bleeding in the brain, you have heart attack, you have death. So whenever we decide pros and cons, just draw an Excel sheet and write the pros on one side and cons on the other side. As long as the pros exceed the cons, do it. All of us have taken our vaccines. Probably we personally may or not believe in that much extent, but we've taken it. So as long it prevents death. See, at least most of these vaccines have prevented death. So I look at it that it's going to preventing you from dying. And the booster, I would say, at your age is still debatable. You can delay it. At your age, it's debatable. You can delay the booster.
Yeah. So, I mean, one more question I had is, I mean, on one hand, you say, meditation and things like that reduce the heart rate and it gives the heart a rest, so to speak. And on the other hand, you suggest exercising where you obviously the heart rate is increasing and you're making it work so much more. So, what is it? What is going to help the heart? Is it like the increased heart rate or the reduced heart rate? So,
So I think
because
let's
like we
take.
have people like from Bangalore, for example, in Karnataka, we had Puneet Rajkumar, a hero who recently
Yeah.
died, uh,
Yes.
and he died from the gym. He was gymming, but then I heard that he used to gym and then go straight drinking and stuff like that. So I don't know what's the actual story, but people who are actually fit also, and exercising regularly, getting these things. So how do we draw a balance between meditation and exercise? What is the right
So
thing? I mean, what
I
is
think let's Swanand take this first, and then Rahul and I can take it on.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Let's start thinking the positive perspective of it. First thing is about the exercises. An individual who is able to do the exercise has got the resources to do the exercise, has got the time to do the exercise, and as a mentality, positive attitude to do the exercise, definitely will deliver a good result. But there is a very thin line between the exercise and the exertion, and unknowingly, even if you do not know what are the points what you have to look forward for during your exercises, you'll end up doing the exertion just because it makes you feel happy. The endorphin effect, which is called as, basically with the exercises, you feel happy, you feel like you have achieved something that day. um, Definitely, then you want to do something. Oh, let's do more, let's do more, let's do more, let's do more, let's do more. But the point is, there is a limit, there is a moderation, right? Just because the government has given you, the car company has given you the speed limit of 180, it doesn't mean that you have to drive at 180, right? Because we have to look forward for the safety of the roads. SSM is like, it's about your own safety, your own perspectives specifically. As earlier, which we decided, the 8 modifiable risk factors, in which the important part also comes is about your stress. And the mental stress, as earlier we were also discussing the same point, that we Indians precisely, I will take it a little liberty of saying this, but as we Indians just do not pay attention at our mental health, and definitely we exercise by, okay, थोड़ा सा time निकाल के exercise कर ही लेते हैं. So like that, we just get it done just on the sake of like just getting it done. But of course, it is not just getting it done. Come on, it is going to give you an effect specifically, which is going to last for 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, maybe 12 hours. But the important thing is what exercise you're going to do is going to give you the effect. The exertion, what you're going to give you, is going to give you ill effects. And the ill effects we need to understand. For an example, I know a few actors and actresses basically who exercise in the night. They start exercising at 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yes.
and
Yes.
before going to sleep, they have maybe um, 3 pegs of vodka and they sleep. Come on, is that a lifestyle? Is it a better lifestyle? Obviously, the rhetorical answer is going to be no, of course. But the point is, when you're looking forward for a better outcome, we have to make everything into the moderation. Your diet, your physical activity, your professional activity, your mental activity, your sleep, your diet, your cholesterol levels, your diabetic level, if your blood pressure is slightly on the higher side, even anything and everything which is not normal or in the range, definitely it is an abnormal situation. And in that point, if you are pushing yourself out of the limits to do the exercise or to get the exercises done, quote unquote, basically. So obviously, it is not going to be a great outcome. So doing exercise prescribed or to know when to stop, the termination of exercise, it's like the self-control where I have to draw a limit of doing the exercise and knowing what exercises to be done next day and the next and the next, and have a short-term, mid-term and long-term goals, and trying to achieve those moderately defines your lifestyle, as well as it will define a better outcome for a longevity of your own life, as well as prevention of the cardiovascular and musculoskeletal disorders or diseases, which definitely going to hamper your day-to-day lifestyle. I can brief that
Okay.
way.
Thank you. Dr. Haresh, you want to add something?
So, what you're talking about, heart rate, meditation, and exercise. Do you know what is the average heart rate, the best heart rate an athlete has? How many
No.
beats per minute? 48. So, sustained, proper cardiovascular exercise actually lowers your heart rate.
Hmm.
It doesn't increase your heart rate. It increases your heart rate initially to test your heart, and then it starts plateauing and going down. So the aim of the cardiac rehabilitation specialist is to make you work in that bandwidth. So it doesn't let your bandwidth go very high, or it doesn't let it go very low. So that's what the cardiac rehabilitation specialist does. Of course, we are supposed to do that, but I'm thankful to them that they do it for us. And second, meditation does the same thing. It slows down the heart, as Dr. Rahul told you earlier, that slows down the heart and lowers the blood pressure. So these two things, lowering the heart and lowering the blood pressure, reduces the load on your heart, and thereby reduces the oxygen consumption, the more oxygen that is needed for your heart to pump. So your heart beats more efficiently at lower oxygen levels. So you don't use too much of the energy for the same heart rate and blood pressure achieved. So both are actually serving the same goal, but in different ways. I hope that
Yes,
answers it.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
I
kind
can
of complicated, but yeah, I get it.
I'll just add a little bit to clarify matters. RHR, as we like to call it, resting heart rate, is one of the most robust parameters of longevity. All the animal species which have higher heart rates live the least, and the lower the heart rate, the longer you live. It's that simple. Besides, as Dr. Haresh mentioned, Roger Federer, for example, has his resting heart rate somewhere in 40s and 50s per minute, lowest possible recorded. So it's the resting heart rate we want to lower down, and that the heart gets into this ability of functioning optimally at a lower heart rate with habit. So if you've trained your heart over a period of years of moderation, proper exercise, proper sleep, perhaps meditation, then gradually your heart gets used to a lower and lower heart rate with which it can function optimally and provide adequate blood to the body. When called to extreme stressful situations like an intense exercise, the heart rate in such hearts will also increase, but will not increase to such an extent in which an ordinary individual's heart rate does. So, what it means is that the heart has adapted very nicely and it is able to function optimally with a lower heart rate, which is for the best bargain for the heart. So, to reach that kind of lower heart rate, we need to do all these things: meditation, appropriate levels of exercise. Very important thing is adequate restful sleep and avoiding stress. So, gradually, we'll notice our heart rates coming down.
That was very, very educational. The other day I was in the gym, and though I'm a physiotherapist, I do have a trainer. and my resting heart rate is somewhere between 59. And he was pushing me. He said 189 karna. I said nahi, I cannot go to 189. I'm sorry. So that is what unrealistic expectations have to be kept. If I was not a physiotherapist, if I was not from the field, I would have fallen for his words and I would have said, yes, come on, let's do more. But I said, no, stop. I cannot go more than this. So I think a trained person and professionals looking at the entire spectrum of this condition or this organ, the heart, is very important. We should also understand one important fact, which heartfulness meditation has taught me, is the heart speaks. Actually, intuitively, we all know where we are heading. We all know. Suppose I've not slept the whole of the night, the next day going because of some commitments or doing some work, and next day if I want to go to the gym, I'm sure my heart will say no, this is not an ideal condition for me. And if I disobey the heart, then I have to bear the consequences. So the heart really speaks to us, and it is up to us to understand the language of the heart. The last rapid fire question round to all of you: what do you all consider heart health in one word? Each of you, starting with Dr. Haresh.
Happiness.
Dr.
That's
Rahul.
exactly what I thought.
Wow. Swanand.
Prevention.
Dr. Rahul.
Same. Keep the heart happy.
Keep the heart happy. So, on that note, my dear friends, we conclude this webinar. We invite you to heartfulness. And apart from meditation, which is one of the techniques which we offer, we have rejuvenation, which is called cleaning, which we do at the end of the day, or even when you feel some load on the heart. Dil pe kuch aa jata hai, we do the cleaning fast, we feel much better. So, we have cleaning, we have meditation, we have the fear detox, we have the anxiety detox, and all these techniques give us harmony. So the heart harmonizes naturally. We welcome you to try this process and walk the way with us. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today evening. And if you all have any
Thank
queries,
you.
feel free to write to us. Email us at wellness@heartfulness.org. I thank every one of you, my dear friends, Dr. Haresh, Dr. Rahul, Sanjeev, and Dr. Swanand, for
Thank you.
sharing this platform.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.